Hello, welcome back to Movies TV Mad. On today's video, I want to continue talking about the David Goyer interview. Then afterwards, I want to talk about Doctor Who's 60th anniversary trailer day. But I'm very well aware by the time this video uploads, that trailer would have aired and you all would have seen it. I will also be recording a trailer reaction to this very exciting, hopefully exciting, trailer. So we're going to have a talk about Doctor Who and the new series and the 60th anniversary special and my concerns there. But first of all, of course, first things first, and that's always going to be DC. Now, in this David Goyer interview, he says a lot of things. He says that the studio wanted to go bigger and bigger with the Dark Knight trilogy. They wanted Leonardo DiCaprio as the Riddler, and Goyer said, well, we don't do that. He complains about the studio's ambition to compete with their biggest competitor, Disney and Marvel. Here's the thing, David. That's their job as a company in a capitalist society to make money. And it's your job to work within that premise. But that's not really what I want to talk about today. He revealed there's either a scene in script form or a deleted scene where a young Clark Kent and Jonathan Kent go hunting. Now, Clark shoots a deer, but he doesn't kill the deer. So Jonathan Kent has to put the deer out of its misery, and the moral there is being able to kill something that's struggling, I suppose. So it's all about foreshadowing Superman killing Zod. Now, in terms of the story he's trying to tell, the foreshadowing is very important and probably should have been in the movie. But here's the thing. This flashback that he's talking about, that he's proud of, goes against everything that Superman stands for. It's the very reason that Superman and DC purists were so angry at this film and BVS in the first place. Basically, this is the kind of flashback you would see in the Dexter television show. It's like he's trying to make a young Clark Kent, a young murderous Dexter Morgan. If you watch Dexter, you'll know what I'm talking about. And yes, I loved Dexter, but Superman isn't fucking Dexter. Let me try and kind of tell you what I'm trying to say here. Basically, he's trying to say that killing, in certain instances, is right. But this is everything that goes against what Superman believes in the comics and all the rest of the television shows, right? And movies and everything else, right? So what he's saying is he's trying to create an arc where Superman needs to learn how to put life down. Now this is interesting. This is the very opposite of the morale we get in Superman versus the Elite or the Jeff Johns penned Smallville episode Legion, where Superman Clark Kent in Smallville is faced with a horrible conundrum. His friend Chloe has been taken over by Brainiac. The Legion come from the future and insist he must kill his best friend. A best friend that's only in this situation because of who Clark is. A friend he grew up with at school. And Clark won't kill her. He refuses. And the morale of the story at the end is there's always another alternative than killing. A really good moral for like children and everyone else to learn from. These are great moral lessons. This is why Superman was created for, right? In the original Superman radio show, there was an episode about the Ku Klux Klan. And, teaching children what they stood for was wrong. Because Superman is the ultimate immigrant. Let's not forget about that. But going back to this whole flashback of Clark learning that he needs to put down struggling life tells you a lot about David Goyer's morality, about his lack of understanding of Superman. And I know some of you, mostly Snyderverse stands, will be shouting at your devices and your screens by now. But this isn't Superman. Learning how to kill learning how to put something down for its own good. This goes to the opponent, the opposition of who Superman is. Let's talk about Superman versus the Elite. Manchester Black and the Elite go against Superman because he's not a killer. They're saying because he doesn't kill the villains, they come back for more. So when they kick the shit out of Superman for not following what they want, Superman plays the ultimate trick on them, on Manchester Black. He pretends he's wiped out and murdered his whole team. He makes it look like he's about to murder Manchester Black. After, for the whole graphic novel or the whole animated movie, which is outstanding, by the way, guess what Manchester Black goes and does? His hypocrisy comes in. This isn't you. Now, he doesn't want Superman to be a killer when it affects him. But for the whole story, he was basically making fun of Superman for not doing the right thing, for being an old-fashioned hero. So he says to Superman, this isn't you. Do you know what Superman says? No. And it never will be. That moment in the animated movie always puts a lump in my throat, because we need a character to stand for something. That we don't have to darken every character up and make them a killer because, you know, current filmmakers and storytellers don't understand that not everything has to be in the real world. You don't have to pull Superman into our ugly world. That's the whole point of Superman. That we can get to know a character that's better than us, that does the right thing, that is uncorruptible, an uncorruptible force. But no, David Goyer wanted to do a flashback where Superman, Clark Kent, as a young boy, has to learn that actually he's wrong for not wanting to kill the deer. Do you understand that? Do you understand how problematic that is for a character like Superman? Because I don't think David Goyer actually understands. If you watch the BTS of Man of Steel, he makes fun of the fact that in the comics and other TV shows and animation, when Superman tells Lois he's from Krypton, she goes, that's so cool. And he goes, that's not what would happen. That's ridiculous, he says, because you're not suspending disbelief. And that's where the problem lies. When people say Clark's disguise of wearing glasses is dumb, they're not suspending disbelief. Because today's audiences and creatives are worse than the audiences. They don't have an imagination. And unless everything is immersed in reality, they don't like it. This is why they love movies like Dune, or they love, they love directors like Denis Villeneuve, or, Christopher Nolan, or Zack Snyder, or even Rian Johnson to a lesser extent, because we've lost our imagination. I speak on this channel every day about Superman being that genie in a bottle, that wish fulfillment character who's better than us, that can teach us to be better people. Because if our fictional characters are all mindless killers that only kill, that don't have compassion, that don't try and find another way, a better way, what kind of people are our children going to become? If we're taking our children to watch a movie where Superman grabs someone's neck and snaps it, what are we teaching our children? If I watched as a young boy Man of Steel instead of Superman the movie, and I saw that, my ethics and my morality would be very different today. If Superman's telling you it's okay to kill, because everyone says, yeah, but he had no choice, because David Goyer, the writer, the scribe of Man of Steel, didn't give him any choice. Man of Steel made $650 million, and that's credit to the character of Superman. And actually, despite the problems in Goyer's script and ethics and morality about Superman, Man of Steel is a damn fine movie. But it does have a lot of issues beyond that I've discussed. And I want to get into them. I want to get into Henry Cavill being cast as this character as well. You see, in Batman Begins, we have the same kind of flashbacks that we have in Man of Steel. There's deep themes in Batman Begins, and there's deep themes in Man of Steel. But the difference between Batman Begins and Man of Steel, Batman Begins cast a character actor. And he wasn't just there for his physicality, because Christian Bale isn't well known for his physicality. He's known as an actor who can change his weight for different roles. He immerses himself into the character's soul. That's what Chris does. But he's a very, very proficient character actor. That's why Batman Begins works so well. So in Man of Steel, they try and do exactly the same thing. They try and create deep themes for the central character. Here's the problem. Henry Cavill looks like a great Superman. He's muscular. He's a physical specimen. But something that Henry Cavill isn't is a character actor. So at times during Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, don't get me wrong, I love Henry as Superman and Clark, but let's be clear here. He doesn't do that character-driven performance as Christopher Reeve does in the first Superman movie, for example, or even in Superman 2, because Christopher Reeve was, a Juilliard graduate. He was a character actor. And you can see it in Superman the movie. You can see the way he's developing a character as Clark Kent in the Daily Planet, and how Margot Kidder is doing the same thing as Lois Lane. But Henry Cavill isn't a character actor. He's a good, solid actor. The reason he was cast as Geralt is not in The Witcher. It isn't because he's a great character actor, because he's a fucking attractive specimen. Let's be honest, at the very least, about that. So you're creating these deep themes in Man of Steel, but he can't play them. He can't play them to the max, to the depth that they're needed to be played. So in Batman Begins, when they're doing those deep themes in Goya's script, it works because the writing is strong, as it is in Man of Steel. Goya is a strong writer. He is. But in terms of who they cast as Clark and Superman, those themes didn't work as deeply as they did in Batman Begins. Batman Begins is my favourite Batman movie, probably, and Batman Returns coming in just after that. And I really like the Batman too. But, Christian Bale can actually, immerse himself in a character and really show you what the writer and director of that movie in Batman Begins are trying to do. So when he walks into the Wayne Mansion when they're doing a flashback, and you've got that beautiful music, you can feel the emotion because of Christian Bale. Everything they try and do within the flashbacks with Christian Bale's Bruce Wayne works on a deep scale. So they attempt to do the same thing with Man of Steel. It doesn't work because they haven't cast a character actor, because Christopher Nolan didn't cast Henry Cavill. Zack Snyder did. And what was Zack Snyder looking for in his Clark Kent and Superman? Physicality, but not a proficiency in character acting. So you've got a director who's trying to show you the physicality in Superman, the beauty in how to make a special effects movie. But the last thing he's interested in is casting a character actor. Here's the problem. He may be directing Man of Steel, but the two people who have put the story together, the man who put the screenplay together, are trying to do more than show you a physical specimen. So there's two different kind of aesthetics here. And a lot of the great stuff they're trying to do in Man of Steel doesn't work because Cavill, great Superman, great lad, love him. I will remember him as a great Superman, but at the end of the day, because he isn't a character actor, the things they try to do, the exact same things they tried to do in Man of Steel as they did in Batman Begins, basically fall flat because Cavill isn't a character actor. Because in Batman Begins, you've got Goya, the screenwriter, and you've got Nolan, the director, who are on the same page. Where Nolan and Goya are on the same page in terms of putting together the story of Man of Steel, but Snyder is coming from a different avenue in terms of wanting to show you the beautiful world of this movie, of this character, and, you know, giving you a most beautiful looking movie. But he's not necessarily interested in how it will work when you're trying to tell these stories. Because Snyder isn't as proficient in getting emotional, character-driven performances from his actors. Doesn't mean I don't like Snyder, doesn't mean I don't like the Snyderverse. I love it. But I'm just telling you the weaknesses when we compare the same thing that they did in Batman Begins as they did in Man of Steel. Let's go to Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, which had nothing to do with Goya or Nolan. Zach brings in Chris Terrio, right? He writes a really deep script about an older Batman and all the stuff that he's going through. He's violent, he's killing people, he's branding criminals. Now, Ben Affleck isn't a character actor, but he can pull off that kind of stuff a lot better than Henry Cavill can. So when Henry Cavill is at the governmental building and it explodes and he's standing there, you don't get much of a reaction from him because he's not a character actor. That's the problem. And also, the director doesn't have it within him to get that performance from him. So you get this really, really horrific moment where Superman's standing there, obviously, while people are being burnt alive. And you don't really get the reaction from the actor you should. I would say that's more the director's fault than Henry Cavill's fault himself. So you don't really feel that moment as much as you do. It's shocking when the explosion happens. And also, you can't see anything that's going on around, so you're relying on the actor's eyes to show you, you know, the horrific nature of people being burnt alive in front of him, and there's nothing he can do. He's in shock, and he's just standing there. And I think that's another thing you have to ask. Would Superman just stand there while people were being burnt alive? You know, there has to come a moment where we maybe see him do something, you know, but obviously there's only certain things you can see because of certain rating and parental certificates. I understand. There was, I think, you know, the Ultimate Edition was released as an R-rated film, was it? I'm not sure. I think it was. But, so the problem is, if you get your casting wrong, but as I say, it's not necessarily that they were wrong to cast Cavill. In terms of how he looks and his physicality, and the physical specimen they were able to get him to, that's great. But at the end of the day, this is the difference between Christopher Reeve and Henry Cavill. Christopher Reeve was a character actor who looked like Superman. Henry Cavill wasn't a character actor, isn't a character actor. And I think this is going to be interesting when he plays, like when they're doing this whole Highlander thing. Part of playing that character, playing an immortal, takes a depth of performance because you're playing someone who's immortal, who's been around for hundreds or thousands of years. And there's got to be a depth in that. You've got to believe that in the eyes. So it's going to be very interesting if Chad can pull that performance out of Henry Cavill. This is not me trying to criticize Henry Cavill, being nasty about Henry Cavill. It's just the way I see things. Batman Begins, a movie that uses the same kind of tone and storytelling as Man of Steel, succeeds where Man of Steel fails. But also, Batman and Superman ain't the same shit. There's things you can do with Batman that you can't do with Superman. That's something Goya didn't understand. But Goya didn't really go deep in polarizing the audience. With Batman, the most controversial thing that happens is when Batman allows Ra's al Ghul to die. I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you either. And it's up to you if you feel that that Batman killed Ra's al Ghul or just let him die. I mean, but people didn't make a big deal of it at the time because the society we lived in, even in 2005, wasn't a polarizing, social media obsessed society. So we lived in very different times. But Man of Steel was very, very polarizing because Superman killed a man. And at the time, it didn't really bother me. But when I think about it now, and I think about Goya and his quotes and his lack of understanding that he was trying to pull this character from the real world, that the only thing he was really interested in was giving us a foreshadowing scene where it's wrong of Clark not to be able to kill a deer. That he deems it as a character weakness, that he can't put that deer down. And that his father is teaching him a good lesson in being able to kill something in the right circumstances. And in a way, you're talking about a deeper issue here. If someone's suffering with cancer, if they're going to die anyway and they ask to be killed, should that be allowed? Well, these are deep issues that I don't have the right to tell you whether they're right or wrong. I don't even have a definitive opinion about it, because I think, when you're in that position and you're suffering, and I may be in that position one day, you may be in that position someday, so I don't think it's right to go one way or the other with these things, but it shows you how Goya feels about that situation. But this is Superman, a character created for children. And the last thing you should be doing is having a flashback scene to say, oh, Clark, you should be killing that deer. And this is the way to do it. You're being kind. That's a problem. That's not who Superman is. And it's not about, Superman purists, right? It's not about that. If you want to do stories like that, don't work with existing iconic characters. Tell your own stories with your own characters. And I think that's the lesson to be learned from all of this. Oh my God, I absolutely adore Doctor Who. I've adored Doctor Who ever since I was playing pretty much going through my TV channels, which were only 3 or 4 at the time, and I discovered this show, and this man with big curly hair, aka Tom Baker, fell off this big tower. This ghostly figure went into his body, and he regenerates into Peter Davison. Doctor Who captured my very young imagination. The problem with Doctor Who is, the role gets played and passed around from actor to actor and showrunner to showrunner. So a great era may turn into a very underwhelming, polarizing era. The Chris Chibnall era of Doctor Who was very, very polarizing. It was a bit like Rian Johnson and The Last Jedi. I found the Chris Chibnall, Jodie Whittaker era of Doctor Who very underwhelming. But here's the problem. In a concept like Doctor Who, when you're using different producers and different actors to play the same role, sometimes it isn't going to be like the ones that you liked. I loved Peter Davison as the Doctor. He really sang to me as who the Doctor is and should be. I didn't like Colin Baker. I felt underwhelmed by him. I didn't like Sylvester McCoy. I felt underwhelmed by him. Both great actors, and watching their episodes now, I'm more kind of convinced that they were okay. But because you're so in love with one version of the show and one producer, when other actors and producers come in, you sometimes leave the show behind. And I left Doctor Who behind with the Colin Baker era and the Sylvester McCoy era. So what they didn't do back then was try and rewrite history. Try and delete those less popular doctors. That's what Doctor Who is. Some eras are great for some eras are great for others. Leave it at that. And so what they decided to do was, as they were approaching a 60th anniversary special, they would basically remove Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor and remove Chris Chibnall as the showrunner. Now, despite his era not being my favourite era, because I think he's a man who picked up great concepts but did nothing with them, The Timeless Child just ended up being his ideological hot take. The Doctor's from a secret planet that we didn't know she was from. That's great. Wow. How about in the next season, she's looking for this planet. She doesn't find it, but it's all about the journey, right? Oh, you've created a brand new fugitive Doctor, right? Played by a woman of colour. That's exciting. Why don't you give us some flashbacks, a spin-off about her so we can learn more about her. Nah, it's just about being seen. These were the issues with Chris Chibnall. He was just there for ideological reasons, creating great concepts and dropping them once he made his ideological point. So they decided to quickly move away from him and Jodie for the 60th anniversary special. But the problem is, the reason the Day of the Doctor works, it's because it's an epic event. We had documentaries. We had An Adventure in Space and Time, which was absolutely a brilliant documentary on how Doctor Who was created, and the first actor who played the Doctor, William Hartnell. So we had the Day of the Doctor, an epic movie event that went for about an hour and 5, an hour and 10 minutes, something like that, maybe even an hour and 20 minutes. They released it limitedly around 3D cinemas because that was the big thing. It was in 3D. You could even watch it on 3D when you bought the Blu-ray. So it was amazing. And it was a great movie, it was a great story. Tennant and Smith were brilliant together. The whole thing was sensational, and Moffat within that story created a new arc for the Doctor, that Gallifrey is out there, and they changed history of the Doctor destroying Gallifrey. That was a huge thing to do. And that surprise moment when they reveal Tom Baker was beautiful. Moffat pulled it off. So Russell T Davies was announced to return a couple of years ago, I think, as the showrunner of Doctor Who. Again, he's the guy who reinvented Doctor Who for a modern day audience and brought it back in such a specific, brilliant, modern way, but it still was Doctor Who. We still kept the facets of who the Doctor is, the TARDIS being a phone box and all of that. Davies did a great job. But when Davies was running Doctor Who in such an excellent way, as I said earlier, audiences weren't so polarising. They weren't on social media. They weren't screaming about their entertainment and treating it like it was their mum's, dad's or their girlfriend's, right? It was a different time. So I have concerns about the brand new era of Doctor Who. I don't like that Jodie Whittaker isn't the Doctor in this 60th anniversary special. You already know she's not one of my favourite versions of the Doctor. That's not the point. We could have had a situation where Russell T Davies and Chris Chibnall wrote this special together, but not 3 episodes, because that's what they're doing, 3 separate episodes. I don't like that. And when we've seen the mini trailers for these 3 episodes, I haven't been that excited by it, and it seems very, very childish, because obviously Doctor Who was created for children. I understand that, and it was created as an educational experience for children, an exploration for children. I understand that, and I know that Russell was kind of riding this tightrope of having a show for children, but for adults, basically a show that parents and children could watch together. Can he pull that off again? Because Moffat started taking it to a more adult place. And in a lot of ways, Chibnall's themes were very adult as well. It wasn't really for kids anymore. But Doctor Who absolutely should be for children and adults together, watching it together. And if Davies can pull that off again, that's great. But I think there's a problem. The reason that the 60th works is because you've got an existing Doctor continuing from a cliffhanger, from an existing arc from the previous season, from the biggest cliffhanger, one of the biggest cliffhangers in Doctor Who history, to reveal that there's a mysterious Doctor we never met, played by the iconic, I'll call him an A-list Hollywood actor, John Hurt, because he absolutely fucking was. It was an amazing coup for Stephen Moffat. So what was the amazing coup for Russell T Davies? Oh, our current Doctor is going to regenerate into a previous Doctor. But that previous Doctor isn't the previous Doctor. No. Temporarily, David Tennant is the 14th Doctor. Now let me be clear. I don't believe this for a minute. I don't believe David Tennant is the 14th Doctor. I believe he's either the human metacrisis Doctor that we met at the end of season 4 that was created by, Donna Noble, with Donna Noble and the Doctor's DNA, or he's playing the Master or some kind of new villain. I don't believe that's the Doctor. the way the regeneration was done, the way this doctor is wearing the previous tenant clothes, that this doctor isn't wearing the previous doctor's clothes. Now, Russell T Davies made mistake number one. He didn't want David wearing Jodie's clothes because apparently he didn't want a mockery being made of a woman's clothes. We're not talking about a skirt here. But you understand how problematic and hypocritical this is, Russell. Because you've got a drag artist on your new series of Doctor Who. I have nothing against drag artists, but drag artists wear women's clothes. That's not making a mockery out of women's clothes. So why would David be wearing braces, dungarees, and a nice bright coloured top be problematic? Why didn't you want to do that? Because he's trying to delete Jodie's doctor. Now, for me, that's utterly problematic. As underwhelming and as problematic for a lot of people as Jodie Whittaker was as the doctor, some idiots didn't want a female doctor. That was never my stance. The doctor can regenerate into a black man, a black woman, an Indian man, anything, right? Because that's what the regeneration thing is. He can't regenerate into a bin, he or she can't regenerate into a bin or a stone, I don't think they can. Anyway, but they can even be alien looking. Well, there's pretty much a lot of things you can do with this regeneration concept, which is great. So I never had a problem with that. The problem was I was underwhelmed with the lack of character development for Chibnall's doctor and his companions, which is a shame. But with Russell T Davies and Chibnall writing that special together, they could have found a way to make Jodie's doctor a little bit more compelling in her final regeneration episode. Yes, I'm suggesting that the anniversary special should have been Jodie's regeneration episode because it gives the event more gravitas. You've got Russell there, so it's going to be a lot more interesting, and Chris and Russell can be doing this together. Maybe Chris turned this opportunity down. I do not know. Maybe Jodie turned this opportunity down, but I doubt it. I've been told by defenders of Russell T Davies, a creative that inspires me, that I'm in love with, that I have no genuine hatred for, by the way, right? But I feel that Russell T Davies' motivation is to delete her because she's an unpopular doctor from an unpopular era. And when I think about it, there's no gravitas. There's no continuation. It's a new thing. And it looks like it's three separate stories unless these three stories actually continue from one and the other. Now, I've been told Jodie Whittaker just had a baby during the shoot for the anniversary or was pregnant. Let's be clear, right? Pregnant women have made television and film before. Not a good excuse. If she's just had a baby and she physically couldn't do it, fair enough. But if she wanted to do it, she thought she was strong enough, they should have allowed her to be the lead of this anniversary special. And as I say, with Russell T Davies and Chibnall involved, it could have been done right. A classic handover, if you like. I'm very, very concerned that all we've seen so far is nostalgia bait, with Catherine Tate's Donna Noble and David Tennant's Doctor, who apparently isn't David Tennant's original Doctor, but 14, something that I believe RTD is pulling a fast one over, and it's not the truth. And when are we going to see that's how you spell his name. It's not Ncuti, it's Ncuti Gatwa. Sorry, Ncuti. So when do we see Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor? Something else apparently that couldn't happen, he couldn't lead this 60th because of scheduling. Not sure if I believe that either, but fair enough, fine. But this is kind of the conundrum you create yourself. When you move away from the person playing the Doctor and you don't lead her into the anniversary special. As I say, that's why the 50th worked so well. Anyway, by now you should have seen, by the time this video uploads, when I'm recording it, it's about 10:11 in the morning here in Cyprus, it's about 9:08 AM in the UK. So I haven't seen the trailer yet, but I'm going to do a trailer reaction, very excited. Please BBC, don't take it down. Anyway, by the time you see this video, the trailer will be there, you know all about it, but you're looking at this video, I know jack shit yet, but I will. So what do I want from this 60th anniversary trailer? I want to see a 2 to 3 minute trailer. 1.5 minutes is fine. I want to see new footage. I don't want to see a lot of the stuff we've already seen. I want to feel, not that you're showing me everything and spoiling things, but just like the Day of the Doctor's full, exciting cinematic trailer, I want to know what the skeleton, what the structure of your specials are going to be. And I want you to shock me with something. Maybe David Tennant and Ncuti Gatwa on screen together. Something that most people don't think will happen. And we've been led to believe that basically David Tennant will regenerate into Ncuti Gatwa. And it looks like he's wearing Tennant's suit, so maybe that's the point. So maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he actually is the 14th Doctor, which is boring because it's just so very predictable. I don't want David Tennant to be the 14th Doctor. I think it's a dumb fucking idea, and it doesn't work. I don't like the fact that we've got rid of the tradition of the next Doctor wearing the previous Doctor's clothes. That really, really upsets me, by the way. But I'll be clear. Let me be clear. I love Doctor Who. I want it to be successful again. But we live in polarising times, as I've already said, and it's very difficult. Now, some people are upset with all the LGBTQ representation that Russell T Davies has announced. Also, this Doomsday Big Finish live action thing that they've been promoting, right? And that woman with the glasses, or whatever she's wearing, right? Hasn't worked. That has been the strength of their marketing. That's been the whole thing they've been doing. It's crap marketing, it hasn't worked, and most people couldn't give a shit. When Russell T Davies purposely leaked, on-set location shoots of Tennant and Tate, we were very excited. We thought, yeah, gone are the days of Chibnall hiding everything. We're getting to see stuff. We're going to get a lot more, but we haven't. The marketing has been non-existent. We're at the end of September, and we're getting a trailer now, which probably is around the same time we got a proper trailer for the Day of the Doctor. So fine, right? I think there was probably the same complaints at the time. But it really isn't about the lack of marketing. My concern is Disney's involvement. Now we know how, and I don't want to use the word woke, but extremist Disney have become with the way they're telling their stories and who they're casting. I have no doubt Ncuti Gatwa is playing the Doctor because that's what Disney wanted. They're injecting a lot of money into this show. I have no problem with a black man playing the Doctor. What I'm saying is, it's probably their choice that Ncuti Gatwa is playing the Doctor, or a black man is playing the Doctor. Luckily for us, we have RTD, who actually cast a talented black man to play the Doctor, right? Because when they cast white people, they have to be good actors. So when you cast women and black people and minorities, the same thing should stand for them as well, which it has with Ncuti Gatwa. He's a brilliant actor. He's going to be a brilliant Doctor. And the casting of Millie Gibson as Ruby Sunday is excellent. So the structure is there for this era to be absolutely wonderful. But at the end of the day, Russell T Davies is part of the LGBTQ community. So it's understandable that he wants to cast trans people, and gay people, and people from that community. And that is fine. I don't have an issue with that. But whatever the trailer is, you're watching this video, you already know what it is. And I will do a trailer reaction later on today. And we will talk about it a bit more. And I will give you my honest, genuine thoughts about the Doctor Who 60th anniversary trailer, and if I feel that we're onto an exciting future, or this is the death of Doctor Who.